Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid as we got you here for the next hour, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in, being part of the show today. We've got Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. A lot of sports betting news and updates to get to as we will. Also, Michael DeCourcy is with us. We have the Final Four for the women and the Final Four for the men coming up in NCAA basketball, so we'll preview that as well. And also a very special interview coming up later in the show with a new contributor to the SportsGrid Network, and a name that I know a lot of you will be very familiar with. So welcome aboard, Smylie Kaufman. He is joining our podcast network and also here on SportsGrid starting April the 10th, less than a week away. The Smylie Show is going to air on TV channels every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7 a.m., as well as on SportsGrid Radio on Tuesday and Thursday, 7 a.m. and 12 noon. In addition, Smylie's going to be featured as the network golf analyst, providing insider news and commentary of weekly pro golf events. And Smylie is going to join us here on the show coming up in less than 30 minutes from now. Folks, the Masters starts a week from today. So what great timing. And by the way, I will ask him about the Masters and preview that. I mean, Smylie was on the PGA Tour for many years and now has moved over to our side on the media side. So certainly can shed some light as to what is going on the PGA Tour. We'll also talk about the LIV Golf Tour as well. So welcome aboard, Smylie Kaufman, to the SportsGrid Network. All right, now let's get to the latest. Got a lot of breaking news to cover here. We'll start off with the National Basketball Association, a pretty big hit as the New York Knicks get ready for the playoffs. Julius Randle, it was announced by ESPN this morning, is going to miss the rest of the season. Season-ending shoulder surgery for Randle. He's been out since January the 27th trying to rehab, but doctors have indicated that it is unsafe for him to return due to instability in the shoulder. So no Julius Randle for the rest of the season for the New York Knicks. They will have to proceed without him, a key cog to making a playoff run for New York. All right, a key cog for the Buffalo Bills is no longer. You may have heard this yesterday. Last night, Stephon Diggs goes on social media and says, "Farewell, Buffalo. We had some good times, but those times have come to an end." In an Instagram post saying, "I can't begin to express the amount of love and respect that I have for the city of Buffalo. 4 of the best years of my life. The city welcomed me with open arms. Grateful for you and all the Bills organization." He goes on and on to say, "Sadly, good things come to an end until we meet again." And I'm sure Houston and Buffalo will indeed meet again. By the way, in the trade, Buffalo gets a 2025 second-round pick. The Texans now with Diggs, a 2024 sixth-round pick, also a 2025 fifth-round pick. And unfortunately for the Bills, they're going to have to carry $30 million of dead cap money from Stephon Diggs. All right, over to the NBA we go, and the Boston Celtics have clinched the NBA's best record with their win last night over the Oklahoma City Thunder. 60-16 on the season to notch their 14th 60-win season in franchise history. The only other franchise with at least 10 such seasons are the Los Angeles Lakers, as you would imagine, with 11. Porzingis, 27 points, 12 rebounds, 5 blocks, 135-100 was the final there. How about the story individually in the NBA last night? It was Malachi Flynn, 50 points, folks, off the bench in a loss by the Detroit Pistons. I mean, talk about 50 points off the bench. That's sort of incredible. It's the most by a bench player in Detroit Pistons history and the 8th most by any player in Pistons history. It's also the second most points by a player off the bench in NBA history, tied Nick Anderson. He had 50 points in 1993. Jamal Crawford had 51 in 2019. All right, now, as we head toward the end of the college basketball season, a decision has been made by Angel Reese, not a surprising one. She has declared for the WNBA draft. She'll enter the pros as one of the sport's biggest names. Of course, the Tigers had an incredible season again. She got LSU to the national title, earned a Final Four most outstanding player. She's a projected first-round pick and could be taken in the top 10. Minnesota Lynx, one of the teams potentially looking at her for the future.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to I mean, we're telling everybody right now, they're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood, say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is now Corbin Burns, the AL Cy Young favorite, now in Baltimore at an 8-1 number.
So let's just say, again, for just, competitive purposes, Soto hits 45 home runs, Judge hits 47 home runs. It's not everybody going like, okay, 47 wins, everybody votes for Aaron Judge. Soto's going to steal some of those from his own teammate at this point. So when I look at that situation, I say, is there a chance those two could run away with it? Yes.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We had the best team in Colorado losing. So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk rooms everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood, say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is now Corbin Burns, the AL Cy Young. So I'm not sure Alabama is the team to knock them off from this second consecutive national championship chase. But what will be the key for the Crimson Tide if they can even cover a number?
That wing ball screen action, how you defend that is going to be a problem because Donovan Clingan forces you to change so much what you do defensively if he's able to score inside.
Only on SportsGrid.
Talk all you want about how fat he is. No one can guard him. No one can stop him. He's a violent offender. He does whatever he wants in the low block and at the 10. He just does whatever he wants and scores at will, ad nauseum.
They're the Mike Tyson of college basketball. At some point, they're going to throw a haymaker. And when it connects, Pharrell, you're not getting up.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We're joined by Michael DeCourcy now to break down the Final Four. Incredible stories going on right now in women's college basketball and men's as well. Mike, I mean, who would have thought that we would be in the spot where, I mean, the women have taken center stage of this thing. More people have watched the women's tournament than ever before. We've got some big names, of course, headed toward their future, deciding. Every commercial I see, Mike, by the way, on TV is, Caitlin Clark's involved in all this. It's a really great time, especially for the women's sport.
I think it's amazing, honestly, when I turn on the television and I see Caitlin Clark in all those State Farm commercials and others, and Juju Watkins doing her ads as well. And two things strike me. One, what a wonderful time for women's basketball that they're being embraced in this way. But the other thing is, there was all this demand all these years, and these athletes were not allowed to do these sorts of things. It just shows what a shame it was that the NCAA didn't move more quickly back in 2014 when the O'Bannon suit went to trial. Didn't move more quickly to embrace these opportunities for more athletes. Quite clearly, there was a market for it, and they were denied it.
Yeah, it is great to see. And let's start now with Angel Reese, who made the announcement officially yesterday. She's headed toward the WNBA draft. What's really interesting is between Reese and Caitlin Clark, all this discussion as to what their futures may look like. Boy, I mean, we could have a really exciting first night of the WNBA draft coming up.
Well, yeah, I think it's foregone conclusion that the Indiana Fever will select Caitlin Clark. They didn't wait at all to make it obvious that that's the direction they're going to go. And Angel Reese is going to be a fabulous WNBA player, and there may be others in this draft who are outstanding as well. But one of the things that was interesting to me is that there are certainly concerns about the amount of money that's flowing into the WNBA. I think that will change as a result of Caitlin coming into the league and Angel coming into the league. I think you'll see the growth of that league begin to escalate at a level that it's not experienced before. But it also shows what the NBA is missing in a lot of ways. By turning college basketball into we'll just grab whatever. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We don't have any investment in these guys in their draft picks because we only have to commit to them for 2 years. The college women's game, you don't have the ability to go out of college into the WNBA in a year. You have to stay longer. And it's allowed players like Caitlin and Angel, and it will in the next few years for Juju, to become bigger stars and become better players and more ready to play in the league. The NBA, with the ridiculous rookie salary cap and the 2-year commitment, right now, rookies are disposable for them. And players are not getting developed in the way they need to. It's a real shame. And that's part of why the women's game right now in college is drawing those audiences, because we know what a superstar Caitlin Clark is.
Let's move over now to the fact that the game between LSU and Iowa was the most watched matchup ever. 12.3 million viewers watching this, which was more than every game basically on ESPN, Mike, this past year, except for a college football game. And I guess it's like, since we're living in this short-term memory kind of thing, do you think that this portends well for the future of the women's college basketball, or is it just simply because the star power involved in this year's Final Four?
Well, I think what it does, Craig, is that when you have a circumstance like this, and you go back to Bird and Magic and then MJ in the NBA, or Joe Namath at the time of the NFL-AFL merger, and you see that these game-changing athletes, what they do is they bring in people who have not watched before, who have not embraced that sport before, and because they're curious. Okay, what's everybody talking about? Why are people wanting to see Joe Namath? Why are people wanting to see Larry and Magic? And then a percentage of them, it's not 100%, but a percentage of them fall in love not just with Larry or Magic or both, but the game, the sport, the league. And the league goes from being tape delayed in late 70s for its NBA Finals telecasts to being one of the most prominent television products in all of college sports. The NFL takes over everything. And it kind of really started with Namath in 69. That's where it began, but it grows out of that. And that's what Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, Juju Watkins represent now. People come in, they see it, they say, I want to see what this Caitlin Clark is about. And not 100% will be back for every game after Caitlin enters the NBA. They may follow her to the pros, but a healthy percentage will say, I want to see the next Caitlin. I love this game. Right. This is something that I want to be a part of.
Now, the game between UConn and Iowa coming up is, again, that's the next test here, with UConn being battle tested year after year in situations like this. But Iowa, Mike, they are favored 2.5 points in this game. Any opinion on the outcome of this one?
Well, I think that part of what we saw on Monday night, first of all, is how dominant Caitlin can be when the pressure clearly did not get to her. She embraced that. I think she perceives an opportunity here, and that will be a challenge for UConn. Now, she's going up against one of the greatest coaches in women's basketball history. I mean, you're talking Pat Summitt, Tara Vanderveer, Gino Auriemma. So that will be a challenge to what he comes up with to try to defeat her. But she got nice, healthy contributions from her teammates in that LSU game. I think that especially in UConn's circumstance where they've had so many injuries, I think Iowa right now is probably playing better basketball, but it will not be an easy game for them to get through.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. By the way, Caitlin Clark actually with some interesting props I want to go over real quick, and then I want to touch on the Final Four on the men's side. The props are really interesting here because 33.5 is the number for points, 9.5 for assists, 6.5 for rebounds, and 3 points made, 5.5. She's crushed these all throughout the tournament, throughout the season. But I don't know how you make numbers for her here, but you got to do it somehow.
Yeah, if out of all those numbers, the one that looks the best to me is the assist number, because if indeed Gino Auriemma tries to limit Caitlin's ability to produce points, she will react by trying to get the ball to her teammates first. And so that's why I kind of see that double figure assist number as a real target. That's the one that looks the most attractive to me.
All right, now let's get to the big ones between NC State and Purdue. Two big spreads, very rare, Mike, at this stage of the Final Four to get down to maybe two double-digit spreads. Right now, you can't get 10 with NC State. It's 9.5, pretty solid everywhere. Purdue, of course, a big favorite in this one, thanks to Zach Edey and company, total of 146.5. Most people, Mike, I don't know if you feel the same way as this. Most people feel that this is the one game of the two that has a chance to be upside down. Do you see it that way, or do you think that Purdue ends up coming out on top and covering this big number?
That's a big number for them to cover, especially given this. Zach Edey was absolutely dominant on Sunday against Tennessee, scored 40 plus, and they needed that in order to get to Arizona. What they did not do well in that game was shoot the basketball. They only made 3 3-pointers in that game. NC State has not allowed anybody since the first game of the ACC tournament to shoot even 35% from three-point range. So that would be what I would worry about relative to Purdue putting up a big number on Saturday. I would tend to believe they're going to win, but I would not be enthusiastic about the cover.
And UConn minus 11.5 against Alabama. Any chance Crimson Tide keep this close?
I don't expect that they will. I don't think their defense is proficient enough. Even though they've played better in this tournament, they haven't faced an offensive force like the one they'll face from the Huskies.
All right, Mike, great stuff as always. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll have a championship to talk about on Monday night. Thanks again for coming on. We'll be right back.
So I'm not sure Alabama is the team to knock them off from this second consecutive national championship chase. But what will be the key for the Crimson Tide if they can even cover a number?
That wing ball screen action, how you defend that is going to be a problem because of Donovan Clingan. It forces you to change so much what you do defensively if he's able to score inside.
Only on SportsGrid.
Talk all you want about how fat he is. No one can guard him. No one can stop him. He's a violent offender. He does whatever he wants in the low block and at the 10. He just does whatever he wants and scores at will, ad nauseum.
They're the Mike Tyson of college basketball. At some point, they're going to throw a haymaker. And when it connects, Pharrell, you're not getting up.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort
night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Actually, some really intriguing updates on sports betting in the United States coming from the South, Mississippi, Louisiana. We're going to get into that. Also, finally, PointsBet looks to be completely now moving over to Fanatics. We're going to dive into how those stories are derived, and Sam McQuillan is here to help us out with that. From Legal Sports Report, we have a guest contributor every day here on the show. Sam is our guy today. Sam, great to have you back here on NewsWire, and we'll touch on all of these stories and more.
Hey, Craig, great to be back. And don't sound so surprised. These stories are always intriguing. You know that.
Not every day. I make it seem like it, but not every day. Okay, but today is a good day because actually, I take it back. It's not a great day, but maybe it is. Maybe I'm all over the place here with this. And you can give me your opinion, too. So player props, which seem to be the topic of discussion and discontent with the NCAA. They want to do away with all of these. I'm mixed of the opinion here. Part of me thinks this is a good idea because it will stop any improprieties potentially with college athletes. But part of me thinks it's maybe a bad idea because people are going to look to go bet these maybe offshore or somewhere else. So let's start off with Louisiana. They're the next state that's on board with not allowing people to bet on player props in the college ranks.
Yeah, absolutely, Craig. It's definitely something you got to think about where this is coming from, why now, and what will it really mean long term, both for the sports betting industry and the bettor. So Louisiana is the latest state to take action on this, basically saying we're going to have this new regulation where you can't bet on any college players anymore. These are things in basketball, like the point total over under 10.5 points for a player like, I don't know, Armando Bacot or somebody like that. And in football, like Jaden Daniels, who was on the LSU team this year. So you can't bet on those individual players anymore like you can in other sports. Ohio and Maryland actually just did similar things right before March Madness started, sort of citing what you're talking about, preventing these improprieties, trying to safeguard athletes against harassment and, against the temptation to, hey, maybe I won't shoot this ball at the end of the game if it's a close game, if there's money on this, or I can tell a friend or someone to bet on it, because it's much easier for one person to manipulate their own markets on themselves than it is to, throw a game or even point shave like we've seen in the past. So this all comes a week after the NCAA's president, Charlie Baker, called for a national ban on college player props, citing those issues and the sports betting scandals we've seen pop up over the last months, whether that's Shohei Ohtani, even though that doesn't really have to do with player props, or in the NBA where you have the Toronto Raptors player Jonte Porter under investigation for large amounts of money that came in on his props in games that he exited early with injuries. So it's been a hot topic lately. Only about 9 states actually have no bans at all on college player props. So actually what you have is most states like Connecticut, for example, or New Jersey will say you can bet on college player props, just not on the in-state teams. So obviously that eats into a little bit of what people in those states were going to bet anyways. So with the existing limits and bans that already exist, college player props in college betting only make up about 15% of all the wagers. That's versus 50% for a professional sport like the NBA, where it's very popular. And you got one firm, Citizens JMP Securities, estimating that this is a national ban on player props in colleges could cost sportsbooks about $200 million in revenue. Now, when we're talking about betting, it's always a lot of money. That's only about 2% of the annual revenue that sportsbooks make, but it is a significant amount. And to your earlier point, where will that money go? Will people simply stop betting on college player props, or are there other options out there in the black market, illegal offshore apps where people are going to turn to instead? And I think a really big part of this too is the proliferation of parlays. Obviously, player props have boomed in popularity in any sport just because of kind of the nature we have as Americans. It goes back to, following statistics in the back of a baseball card, fantasy sports and individual players. People like to bet on the individuals, and you have that rolled into same game parlays and the different options it gives people. It's a lot easier to offer a same game parlay with different players you can bet on than just like, hey, is someone going to win the first quarter? Are there going to be an even number of points? It allows bettors to get more creative. So as you've seen those rise in popularity, so too have player props. So doing away with kind of this extra thing that sportsbooks can offer could impact sort of, their college handle in general and the revenue they make. So it's all kind of coming to a light now. It would be good to have a little bit more kind of oversight and thought about, like you said, what we're actually doing here, where this is going to go, and if this is really safeguarding people at the end of the day.
Yeah, and again, big decisions to be made here, because again, you could be looking at another way to bet these on different sites, maybe non-taxable sites, which all of a sudden the United States may come back and say, hey, we're not getting any money and these people are. It's all about money, really, at the end of the day.
Right.
Okay, so sports betting in Mississippi has been around. Let's not get it twisted. You can bet on sports in Mississippi. You just got to go to the hotels, Beau Rivage and all these hotels. Of course, you can do it there. You just, once you leave, you can't bet online. And now, finally, Sam, after years and years of discussion, it seems like we're getting closer for people that actually are not there at the retail shops in person to be able to bet.
Yeah, there's 26 casinos in Mississippi that allow sports betting. It was actually one of the first states to legalize sports betting after the Supreme Court allowed states to do so. But to your point, for years, people have been clamoring for an online option. We see the majority of bets are online now. People want to be able to bet from their home, from their couch. But Mississippi really hasn't had much progress over the last couple of years in trying to, get apps like FanDuel, DraftKings in there. And that's because kind of the legacy casinos that are there, a little bit worried about their profits. But a really good sign if you want sports betting in Mississippi this week is a Senate committee cleared a bill that would bring sports betting online. The bill was already approved by the full House back in February. So essentially the next step is for the full Senate to approve it. If there's changes in the bill, the House might have to come back. I'm told that the changes probably wouldn't be significant if they were made. So there's a really good chance that they end up passing legalized online sports betting in Mississippi this session. Now, the session ends next week, April 11th, I believe. So time is ticking. We'll have to see if this is still a priority for a lot of legislators. There's always, when you come down to the end of the state rulemaking process or bill passage process, there's a lot of other things that they have on their agenda besides online sports betting. But this seems to be more of a priority this year as the revenue from sports betting in Mississippi has declined over the past couple of years. Actually, last year it was down 16% year over year, and people bet about 11% less of the money they did previously. Now, why is that? You have states like Tennessee, Louisiana, Arkansas, which all surround Mississippi, all with legal, thriving online betting markets. So this seems like finally the casinos are coming around on this issue. The bill is structured in a way that a lot of states do this, where if the casinos they have there are worried about the revenue that they might lose out by sports betting going online, basically they become the gatekeepers to anyone entering. If FanDuel or DraftKings or BetMGM wants to go in there, they have to have a partnership with one of the state casinos. So 26 casinos, up to 26 online sports betting apps potentially. Mississippi could go from one of the states where betting is really limited, only in person, to all of a sudden having 26 apps and being a huge state and attracting a lot of that money that leaves the state along the borders. So one of the few states that might pass some form of sports betting this year, kind of a good thing for the industry, which had a negative outlook on how many states were going to legalize this year.
All right, let's close it out with this. Finally, it seems it took almost a year here. PointsBet is no longer. Fanatics takes over the acquisition here. Feels like it took like a year, basically. And I guess, Sam, that indeed is the case here. Finally, Fanatics closes out in full their acquisition of PointsBet.
Yeah, 11 months, so almost a year, Craig. But it has been a very long process of basically Fanatics going state by state, trying to first acquiring PointsBet and owning those apps, but those apps still existing in that state, and then trying to convert those customers from PointsBet over to Fanatics. So that's ending within 30 days. The last states where that'll happen is New Jersey and Illinois, and Fanatics will now be live in 20 states, which is a lot more than they had access to 11 months ago before they had this deal. They only had access in about 4 states. That's very significant for a huge company like Fanatics, which is coming into sports betting at this time with all this money. It was kind of like, okay, you want to be in all these states quick and fast. How are you going to do that? PointsBet came along and said, hey, we're going to go for sale. Fanatics initially pitched $150 million. It seemed like that was going to go through. The company would be sold for that much. Then DraftKings swooped in with their offer of $175 million, upping the price. There was a lot said in the media about beef between Michael Rubin of Fanatics and Jason Robbins, who reportedly had said that they were going to work together at one time, but now we're enemies. So it seemed, and then DraftKings pulled their offer, so it seemed like Fanatics was just forced to pay a higher price. So yeah, you're finally having this all come to an end. They're going to absorb about 200 PointsBet employees. People who are on the PointsBet platform are going to be automatically converted over to Fanatics. They're going to acquire their offices in Denver, and it's just going to be really good for Fanatics ahead of football season to have 20 states versus 4, what they had last year. So another kind of chapter we're ending in this great sports betting story.
Yeah, we are. All right, Sam. Great stuff. As always, have a great rest of your week. We'll catch up again next week here on NewsWire. Thanks again.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Craig. Take care.
All right, Sam McQuillan with us. Hey, announcement from the Oakland Athletics, or should we call them the Sacramento Athletics? The A's announced this is the final year that they will be playing in the Oakland Coliseum. They're moving to Sacramento starting in 2025. They will be there through 2027 and wait for their new stadium to be built in Las Vegas. We'll be back with Smylie Kaufman next.
So there's it's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk groups everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood, say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is now Corbin Burr, the AL Cy Young favorite, now in Baltimore at an 8-1 number.
So let's just say again, for just competitive purposes, Soto hits 45 home runs, Judge hits 47 home runs. It's not everybody going like, okay, 47 wins, everybody votes for Aaron Judge. Soto's going to steal some of those from his own teammate at this point. So when I look at that situation, I say, is there a chance those two could run away with it? Yes.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
This sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Really excited for our next guest. SportsGrid here, of course, we do a phenomenal job video-wise streaming. We also have a great podcast network. We're always adding to that if we can get some big-time podcast hosts. So I think that our next guest qualifies. Smylie Kaufman is joining our team here at SportsGrid on our podcast network. Can't wait to get into it because, of course, nothing better this time of the year than talking about the PGA Tour along with Major League Baseball, college basketball, NFL. I mean, we got so much, Smylie, to talk about, I hear with you. But first of all, welcome to our ever-growing network. Thanks for being part of it, and welcome to the team.
Thank you, Craig. Obviously very excited to join the network. My story kind of started back when I was a professional golfer. Kind of had to hang it up because of injuries. And next thing you know, I'm in the media business, and I haven't been doing it that long, but it's been such a fun turn of the chapter for me from professional golf and be able to cover the sport that I love. And, I've only been podcasting for, let's say, 10 months now. So the fact that I've been able to move to a home that I'm very excited about is it's really cool. And so far, just love everybody that I've met at SportsGrid, and I'm just super pumped for the opportunity.
Yeah, and the access I know that you have, of course, being a former player on the tour, is going to be incredible for us, being able to convey what's actually happening, on the course to a lot of our listeners and viewers. And I wonder, from your perspective, sort of turning to the media as a former player, do you find that you still have that same access to a lot of these guys? Do they know that now exactly what you're doing? And those relationships, I know at times, Smylie, can change. I guess the good news is that you're finding out here on the fly.
It's a great question. And I think once I did turn the page and become a media member, I think guys are maybe a little bit more cautious in certain things, but also, I get to catch what their secrets are from week to week. Sometimes things that I wouldn't feel comfortable asking, whether it was me playing and just trying to get a tidbit on the golf course and certain thing a player might have learned. Now I'm getting that information because I don't mind asking it. And for my on-course work that I do for NBC Sports, I'm constantly trying to figure out what these players are working on in their games, but also what they like about the golf course, how it's playing. And, we're just kind of finishing up this NBC swing here in Texas this coming week. But the start of the year has been very interesting on the PGA Tour, with all that's been going on in the game of golf. From the Live Golf Tour, the PGA Tour. Pretty soon, we're all going to turn the page on that. And once the majors are here, the Masters right around the corner, everybody kind of forgets all of the drama that's going on in the professional game right now, and it's all about who's going to win the Masters, which is coming up right around the corner.
Yeah, and I think, Smylie, before I get to that, I'd like to talk to you about that because it's going to be great having you on the network and listening to your thoughts on it, because I think we're having what I would call, Smylie, is a renaissance on the golf tour. Now, I know that you said that, there's some controversy here. Some of the best players in the world, John Rahm included, are playing over on Live Golf. But, Smylie, there was a period of time in golf, maybe 10 years ago, 10 years ago, where we had Tiger Woods as the must-watch. And then there was, I felt, at least personally for me, maybe you would correct me, a little bit of a drop-off in interest. I think those days are gone. I think we're right back where we were when Tiger was playing because of Rory McIlroy and Scottie Scheffler and the incredible talent that we're finding every single week on the PGA Tour. I wonder if you feel the same way. It was all about one guy then. No offense to anybody else. Phil Mickelson may have been in that conversation. But now the competition of what we're seeing in the elite level of play, I think, has brought people back in once again.
Well, yeah, definitely. The depth on the PGA Tour is 100% there. I think, the floor has been raised, I guess, is the best way to describe the PGA Tour now. There's players that are coming out right out of college and competing right away on the PGA Tour. We saw that earlier this year with Nick Dunlap winning the American Express tournament and turning pro immediately. So we've seen the young players come up and play and win, but also, to your point, I would say that Tiger Woods, and rightfully so, the PGA Tour, he was it. They marketed Tiger Woods to the nth degree, and the question always was, where would golf be when Tiger Woods was gone? And we've had periods where Tiger Woods was off the tour back in 2016, 17, dealing with some neck injuries, and we're wondering, are we ever going to see him again? Next thing you know, he wins the Masters a couple years later. So we think, okay, we're going to have Tiger Woods forever. And then he gets in the car accident, and now we've seen just Tiger Woods play in a few amount of events a year due to his injuries. So the game now, we've had a star enter the picture in Scotty Scheffler. This guy is the probably the most comparable ball striker to Tiger Woods in his prime. It's that good. I've seen it in person, and I can't believe how well he hits it from day to day. Never really hits it bad, hits it right where he's looking, and has all the control in his golf ball. And to me, Scotty Scheffler is a guy now that he can't miss TV when it comes to watching him play golf. He just came off a win, and then had a chance to win yesterday as well. So the game depth-wise is in a good place. We've seen, a guy like Jordan Spieth as well back in 2015 kind of sparked the interest of the game of being that guy to potentially win the Grand Slam. And he's just one win away from doing that at the PGA. So there's a lot of general interest. And then lastly, I'll finish up on Craig. The game of golf without the professional game couldn't be in a better place. People love playing the game right now. It's super popular to play. It's hard to get a tee time anywhere across the country as it stands. So the game's popular. YouTube golf is very popular. So the professional game is the only thing that has a divide right now. So other than that, I would say golf in general is in a very good place.
Yeah, and I think that your coverage on this podcast of all the topics that we're discussing is going to be paramount to what we're doing here. Let's quickly get to the divide, and then I want to talk about the Masters real quick because, on my show, Smylie, whenever we previewed the PGA Tour tournaments last year, every week we started and finished with Jon Rahm. I mean, that's basically where it began. Will Jon Rahm win? And who else if not? This year's been completely different, by the way. It's been like all of these players out of nowhere have been winning these tournaments. So that's a really great thing for the sport. Will we ever see a resolution here to having this? I thought by January we were going to get there. Now we haven't. I feel like this could go on another year.
Yeah, just to touch on before I answered that. Yeah, last year it was Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland. Those are the four names. It was like, okay, which one of those four guys is going to win this week at a major? But yeah, to your point, the June 6th announcement that there was a framework agreement in place that the PGA Tour upper executives had negotiated with the PIF. There seemed to be a lot of uncertainty of what that meant, if it was imminent between the LIV Golf Tour merging with the PGA Tour, which is what we saw on the TV on the announcement that day. You're thinking, wait, what? It just seemed like it was, it's an April Fool's joke because the PGA Tour and Jay Monahan, all they did was talk so poorly about the LIV Golf Tour, also about the PIF, and the next thing you know, we're in business with them. So it came to be a shock for the PGA Tour players. But turning the page on what has happened since, there's been a control that's taken place with the PGA Tour players. They've basically reconstructed how the policy board is, and the fact that they have more control than the rest of the executives at the top. They have the voting power on both the new board, which is the for-profit versus the non-profit. So they have voting power on both. So that was the first thing that the PGA Tour players wanted to take control of, is so that the thing that happened on June 6th would never happen again, that they would never be blindsided like this, because there is no union that with the PGA Tour like we see in other sports leagues. So that was the first thing they took care of. And then the next thing they focused in on is securing private equity, which they've done with the Strategic Sports Group. So that was the next thing. They got this huge investment from them, that the players are going to be able to take equity in that. So that's one way of rewarding the PGA Tours for being loyal, for players that stayed and didn't take the big money. So you have an opportunity now to potentially bring these LIV Tour players back. Is that, okay, there is a pathway now that these players can come back, but they're not going to be able to get the equity now that they've already secured from private equity. So Is it going to happen soon? That's kind of the big question. They just had a pretty big meeting down in the Bahamas where the policy board members did meet with Yasser, who has been leading the charge on the Live Golf side from the Saudis. So now there's been a bit of, hey, where do you see the future of the Live Golf Tour? Where do you see the future of golf? Because right now it's been just stacking poker chips. Who has more leverage and everything? And the biggest one being Jon Rahm going to the Live Golf Tour. That was kind of the big poker chip that the Live Golf Tour secured heading into these negotiations. And now as these players continue to fall off the official world golf ranking, you know, the only thing that the PGA Tour has right now is time. So it's time is on the PGA Tour players' hands, but the ratings have not reflected it. I think the general person is pretty tired of everything that's gone on and what these guys get back.
All right. One last thing. This show, Smylie, a week from now becomes the Masters show. We're here. Augusta is a week away. I assume that this is like the Super Bowl of golf. I can't wait till next week. I'm sure you can't as well. Any predictions here as we get closer to the big day?
You know, it's such a great question. You're right. It is our little Super Bowl. I think the Ryder Cup last year was probably another Super Bowl. But early predictions, I think Scotty Scheffler is the guy to beat. You know, who's going to be the player that can challenge Scotty Scheffler? It's going to be hard to see anybody win but him at this moment. But there's tons of value on the guys from the Live Golf Tour. I would say that Jon Rahm, Brooks Koepka, Joaquin Niemann are three guys that you just can't avoid not taking those players, even if you don't know what type of form they're in. Right. But some other players from the PGA Tour as well that have had good starts to the year. You know, I would say guys kind of like a Hideki Matsuyama who've won on the PGA Tour this year, who found their form. They've already won at the Masters before. So I'm always looking at a guy who doesn't have the pressure of winning a green jacket again. That's the hardest thing for guys to win for that first time. And once they do, it's like, okay, I can go win again. So a guy like Hideki or Jordan Spieth are two guys that kind of fit that category.
All right. Well, Smylie, listen, first and foremost, welcome aboard to the SportsGrid Network, SportsGrid podcast. I know that we're going to be asking a lot of you here because we need you to deliver. I know you're going to be our man on the ground or on the course there, of course. And thanks so much for joining me. Your analysis is fantastic, but following, you know, certainly everything you're doing at NBC, just leave some time for us to grab some of that as well. Thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely. My boots stay on the ground, and I'm happy to be the guy to help deliver some information when I got it, but constantly following these guys, and it's really excited to join this home at SportsGrid. Really, really excited for this next chapter.
All right. Smylie, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
See you, buddy.
All right. Smylie Kaufman with us here on NewsWire. We'll have a lot more details how you can listen to this podcast here on SportsGrid. We'll be back to wrap it up next.
It's not even like Colorado's going to sit on it, right? I mean, there's no way in the world we're not getting one more goal. We're going to cash this ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
I love the bet. I love the price. I think that's, like I said, that's one we're going to have to, we're telling everybody right now. They're probably moving it in risk groups everywhere right now based on us giving out this information.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
And I don't think people understand when you have a coach like Brad Underwood that is like that with you, that will get in your face like Huggy Bear did, but could hug you and love you and correct you and make you a better version of yourself. Brad Underwood, say what you want about the Shannon Jr. situation. This guy's a hell of a coach.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is now Corbin Burns, the AL Cy Young favorite, now in Baltimore at an 8-1 number.
So let's just say again, for just competitive purposes, Soto hits 45 home runs. Judge hits 47 home runs. It's not everybody going like, okay, 47 wins, everybody votes for Aaron Judge. Soto's going to steal some of those from his own teammate at this point. So when I look at that situation, I say, is there a chance those two could run away with it? Yes.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted. But here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
Sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A couple of quick updates to stories today. The Oakland Athletics appear to be no more after this season. They are moving to Sacramento. That's where they will play from 2025 through 27. The Athletic is reporting this morning they will no longer be called the Oakland A's. For the time being, they will be called the Athletics or the A's. That's what they will be moving forward. They're planning on moving to Las Vegas in 2028. If they don't, they can play in Sacramento in 2028 as well. That would mean they would move there in 2029 while a stadium gets built in Las Vegas. Also, a funny story yesterday, the mayor of Dallas is pushing the Kansas City Chiefs to play with the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Okay, potentially moving the Chiefs to the same city as they would play. Maybe Jerry's World, who knows? Maybe new stadium, but regardless of that, they'll get things worked out in Kansas City. Right now, there's new stadium discussion, but this is what happens. They fight for a while, but inevitably they end up staying home. I think that will end up happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. But for the time being, the mayor is getting involved, as he probably shouldn't, but that's what they're doing. It's not going to happen. The Chiefs will stay in Kansas City. All right, that will do it for the show today. Hey, thanks again to Smylie Kaufman for coming on the show. You can go all over our social media channels, SportsGrid, SportsGrid TV, or even mine at Craig Mish, and learn more about Smylie and his venture throughout the years on the PGA Tour, now into media as well. So welcome aboard, Smylie. Thanks for coming aboard here on SportsGrid. Also want to thank our guests, Michael DeCourcy on the program, as well as Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. Thanks to them as well. Now, want to remind you that you can catch me tomorrow morning for a new show, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, our Friday edition of NewsWire. Also want to thank our associate producer, Frank, and our producer, Michael Cohen. I'm Craig Mish. We've got the early line coming up next, and then Pharrell back in the house on Coast to Coast later this afternoon. That's 3 o'clock Eastern right here on SportsGrid. Enjoy the rest of your day. Tons of baseball action coming your way in less than 15 minutes. I'll see you tomorrow here on NewsWire.